experiencing the solidarity that happens between Black organizers is something that you can just feel in your bones with this type of in-person meeting.
We are unapologetically organizing and centering in all of our work, all of the training, everything, Black folks, Black women.
I think what drew me in was the idea of having a space that felt really inclusive. In this work, you can feel very siloed, and in Las Vegas, where there aren't very many other Black-led organizations, it can feel lonely at times. And so I think what BFC does gives me an opportunity to just be with folks who understand, who I can have conversations with about the good, the bad, and all of the struggles, and the joy of doing this work.
The struggles that you all mentioned, let's turn that into a training. Let's turn that into a support for you all, right? Whether it's a formal training, whether that's a gathering, how in the world can we meet our needs here with this full space?
Our power comes from us being able to speak about what our people need.
We need to look at shared tactics and practice and help each other understand how we're tackling it, what it looks like, some of the challenges in doing it, so we can learn from each other and build more power that way.
What are the things that we're going to want to win together? What structures and decision-making processes do we need to build this out to make this happen?
I think what's most exciting is that there are so many people who are really truly interested in the concept of reparations and what that could look like, and that it can look like a lot of different things, and that we really want to, as a group, put together a cohesive plan that might actually, finally get us the due that we deserve.
This is it. This is a collection of groups who I feel have the blueprint for how we build Black power, how we can move towards Black liberation, and how we could, create some real just peace for our people.
BFC really is just an open door to our own liberation that we want to build. Black liberation really looks like autonomy. It looks like us to have the decision-making power that we want and need for our individuals, for our families, and for our greater community.
We engage with the dreamers, we engage with the visionaries, we engage with the storytellers, we engage with the builders in the community, we engage with the caretakers. And in that way, like I said, we can all dream with a radical imagination to make whatever seems radical today seem like the norm tomorrow.
Good evening, everyone. Whew. Those kinds of videos just touch my soul when I see stuff like that. My name is Elisheva Johnson, and I am the Executive Director of Emergent Justice. Tonight, the mission of this conversation will be to discuss the questions addressed about Black safety. We want to provide a clear historical and political analysis, as well as heal and build a path forward. What we hope comes out of this will be insightful and will allow us and everyone to lead with ideas that will help strengthen to keep our communities safe. So let's get on with the show, y'all. So I'd like to take some time now to introduce two of our guest speakers. Our first two guest speakers will be discussing a little bit about what safety looks like to them. And the first person we'll be hearing from tonight is CJ Lawerence. He has more than 15 years of experience in law and content creation, social media outreach. This movement attorney sits at the helm of Black with No Chaser, a digital publication that has amassed an audience of more than 25 million people across all platforms. He directs content that addresses systemic oppression, socio-economic issues, and offers the unapologetic amplification of Black voices. Our other panelist is Kamau Franklin. Kamau Franklin is the founder of Community Movement Builders. And Kamau has been a dedicated community organizer for over 30 years, y'all. Beginning in New York and is now based in Atlanta, Kamau was a leading member of the national grassroots organization dedicated to the ideas of self-determination and of the teachings of Malcolm X. So let's get into this conversation.
How you doing?
How you doing, y'all?
Good.
What's up, CJ? What's up, Kamau?
Doing good. Feeling good. It's good to see my brother Kamau as well. So I'm excited to be here with you all this evening. I'm really excited about it.
So I really want to thank you all for joining us tonight. I know you all are some busy folks. Y'all organizing, doing all kinds of stuff from here to Atlanta, all over the country. And so I would just like to start with Kamau, describe how you define safety.
Well, as I define safety, it's really about starting off with, particularly in the context of Black folks and Black communities, is that we as Black folks must control any and all institutions, organizations, governmental apparatuses that have any say whatsoever in our lives. So we cannot have public safety if other people control institutions, particularly policing institutions, or any institution that has power over how we are treated, over our public safety, over our education. And so unless we are grounded in taking control of institutions, again, and or destroying institutions that claim to want to do us good, but only do us harm, so unless we either claim control, create and or destroy bad institutions, we will never have public safety, or we will never be safe. And so for me, it's a brief, really straightforward way to think about what safety means, but it has to start with Black folks controlling and let me just add this one quick caveat, Black folks controlling and not being controlled by others. So
I hear that, my brother.
Black institutions and or Black governance that is controlled by other people's economic interests, because that means it's not really Black control. And so those things are important when we start to define what it means for safety and for us in our communities.
So your organization is actively engaged in important resistance to stop the construction of the largest police training facility in the country. Why is this a fight we must win? And how are you organizing to deliver this victory, my brother?
Well, the training center you're talking about, we've dubbed as Cop City, which is getting a lot of media attention at this particular point in time. Cop City is basically a militarized training center that the Atlanta Police Department, the Atlanta Police Foundation, corporations developed after the 2020 uprisings, after the 2020 movement against police violence took hold. So while the larger community, while Black folks were talking about potentially abolition, we're talking about defunding, we're talking about finding alternatives to public safety, Atlanta decided to double down on militarized policing and to give the police here a training center, which is going to cut down literally 100 acres of forest that's adjacent to a working class Black community. And in this training center, they're going to have a place for a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad. They're going to have over a dozen firing ranges. They're going to have mock cities in order to train against urban warfare, to train for urban warfare. They're going to have restaurants, bars, towns. So basically a cop city. And again, we see this as coming out of the 2020 uprisings. Georgia itself has training that it does with the Israeli Police Department. And at this facility, 43% of the police officers who are supposedly going to be trained are going to be coming from around the country outside of Georgia. So we like to say to people, the same tactics and strategies that the Israeli police use against Palestinians are going to be imported here, and the same tactics and strategies that the US police use against Black and brown folks here are going to be exported to Palestine. So this symmetry of policing at a national and international basis can only be dangerous for our community. And so that's why we are engaged in the fight with others to do what we can to stop Cop City from happening.
Wow. They gonna be killing Black people and trees over there. That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is for you, CJ. How do you define safety?
Thank you for that question. And I think I'm going to touch a little bit more on what Kamau spoke to, in that, safety essentially is autonomy, the ability to have control for our own selves and speak for our own selves and make decisions for ourselves within our communities. And if you look at what has happened historically in this country, there's never really been a time where Black people have been safe since the inception of this empire, if you will. And right now we're seeing this essentially a cycle of the same type of history that we've always seen as it relates to America. In Oklahoma, they're banning Black books, and in other places throughout the country. In Florida, they're banning Black history and demonizing it by calling it critical race theory, as though critical race theory is something to be demonized. They are now in Jackson, Mississippi, going so far as to essentially eliminate the Black vote by creating a pseudo government on top of the city government that already exists. We exist in a state of the state of Mississippi is approximately 40% Black. It's the Blackest state in the United States of America. It's also Jackson is 80% Black. It's one of the Blackest cities in the country. I think only behind Detroit. Understanding this, we understand that there is a racial dynamic that exists as it relates to state government and how it interacts with city government. And our state government essentially is freezing out the city government that is majority Black. To give you a landscape of what Jackson, Mississippi's and Hinds County, which is where Jackson's the seat resides, we're talking about a place where everyone from the mayor to the district attorney to all of the judges from family courts to city courts to municipal courts to our circuit courts are Black people. And so there's an interesting dynamic in that it doesn't look like the rest of Mississippi in that regard. But we also have a Republican supermajority that is extremely conservative, that essentially set the table for the way that others go about their business. You see Mississippi often as the test case for issues that will go on to go around the country. It's kind of Alex, incubator, if you will. And so we're seeing that right now with what they call the CCID, which is the Capital Community Improvement District is what they're calling it. They like to call it something euphemistic all the time. But the reality is that this district would allow white judges from the Supreme Court to appoint more white judges to preside over cases of Jackson citizens and Jackson citizens only. The same would be true as it relates to a white attorney general having the ability to appoint more prosecutors to prosecute citizens of the city of Jackson. We already have a district attorney. We already have judges. Essentially, they would be phasing these judges out in order to allow their own judges that they've hand selected to do their bidding. And the same would be true with the Capitol Police Force. The Capitol Police Force, in its, I believe, 2 years of existence, has already all of the extrajudicial killings that have taken place in Jackson, Mississippi, since Capitol Police Force has been in existence, has been at the hands of the Capitol Police Force. if that helps you to understand what safety looks like. So when Kamau says that safety looks like controlling our cities, it really means controlling our cities without being puppets with regard to that. The last thing I really want to say about this particular aspect of it is that Jackson sits in a position where it, the federal government gives Mississippi more funding than any other state in the country, but that funding is distributed through our state government, and a lot of times that funding is not allocated in a manner that is proportionate to Jackson being the largest city by far in the state of Mississippi. That struggle and dynamic where you have that supermajority, that conservative supermajority at play, essentially dangling the funds in front of the city and saying you won't get them unless you bend the knee, is certainly not the dynamic that I would characterize as safety. So for me, safety absolutely looks like autonomy. It looks like the ability to not have to water down or code switch our Blackness and authenticity. And it looks like the opportunity to speak for ourselves, govern ourselves, and determine for ourselves what safety should look like in our community.
Well, thank you for that, brother. I have one more question for you. Tell me how you feel that media plays a role in the safety conversation. And brother, I know you long-winded.
Yeah,
right. We're all organizers. We're all long-winded, but kind of keep it short for us.
I got you. So what I'll say in regard to the media is that media should be a space where we should also be safe, because code switching is exhausting, and a lot of times, even all the way down to the media delivers the information to you. When it comes to Black journalists, they even have to change the way in which they talk just to deliver messages to us. And we want to exist in a world where we don't have to feel like we're always in survival mode. You look at what's happening in Cop City right now in Atlanta, and some of the way that the narrative is coming out there, the way that they're characterizing that, they're not speaking to the fact that they killed an activist last week. They're not talking about that in the manner that it should be talked about. And so I think we have to be able to control our own narratives. And the way that we do that is by coming into the space and speaking to our people unapologetically, and speaking to anyone who's receptive to hearing an alternative message in a way that allows us to amplify Black voices, create and tell stories our way. We do that in a revolutionary way. I think that's where companies like Chaser and Black Power Media come in. We can speak to issues that are uniquely ours in a way that nobody else can or possibly even has the desire to. And so it's a critical component to ensuring that our stories are told, and that our stories are told authentically.
I feel you, brother, because my code switch skills, they on point, man. I can switch it up, but I don't like to. I only do it when I pay my bills, right? So I try not to do that code switching thing. So I really appreciate this time with you all, and I would like to take a moment for that organizer that got killed, if we will. So I really appreciate this conversation with you all. And I just like to say, if there's anything else you both would like to add, if you would take a couple of minutes to go ahead and add that after I ask this last question to you, my brother, for the both of you. What can we do to begin to demand? Now, there's a difference in asking. Right, we're talking about demanding safety in our communities, from where everybody is on this call.
I mean, I'll go first. I think there's a couple of things that we have to do. One is that we have to create organizations that speak for us, organizations that have power. And so we can't have organizations that are, again, under the control of the Democratic Party. We can't have organizations that are under control of some corporation. We can't have organizations that are under control of some foundations. We have to have organizations that are independent. We have to have organizations which speak their mind and their voice. And so that has to be the starting point of wanting to see or have and or demand power. After that, we have to be able to start gaining resources. We have to start creating alternative structures, as well as fight back. And fight back means many different things. It definitely includes meaning protests and demonstrations, but it also includes, again, finding alternative paths, creating alternative organizations and institutions. And it also you have to make sure that we know who our enemies are, right? We can't be supportive or happy just because a black face wins a political office when that black face is not beholden to the larger black community. When that black face decides that they're going to follow corporatist interests, or they're going to follow the developer interests, or they're going to follow the interests of the policing agency, or they're going to follow their party interest. When that stuff happens, that means we are no longer controlling these institutions, that these folks are no longer serving their purpose of working for us as a people. We have to be clear about ideology. We have to understand the history of capitalism, the history of settler colonialism. We have to understand that white supremacy is a worldwide project. We have to understand that we can't side with American foreign policy when it means the enslavement of our folks internationally as well as locally. So we have to get together and understand ideology. We have to understand what ideology works for us, what ideology we should employ to be free. We have to look at our history and see what is it that was destroyed by the American government and why was it destroyed? So why was the Black Power movement destroyed? Why were the Panthers destroyed? Why was Malcolm killed? Why was Dr. King assassinated when he was assassinated? Why is Assata Shakur in exile? We have to figure out why the politics of Black Power were destroyed and going after it by the government, and why the only thing left standing after the 60s and 70s was voting rights and integration, right? So we have to be clear, and voting rights, integration, and Black capitalism. So we have to be clear that if we're fighting for power, if we're fighting for the integrity of our people, we have to do the research, the study that is necessary, and build the organizational apparatuses that we need that comes out of that study.
Right. We have to fight systems with systems. Absolutely. We have to build our own systems because working and trying to navigate within theirs, we're ultimately running up against policymakers who are going to gerrymander their way out of a lot of those situations, or buy their way or legislate their way out of many other situations that we attempt to navigate, and we see that repeatedly, and we've seen that for centuries. And so I agree with Kamau that we got to create our own systems in order to do that.
Yeah, I totally thank you both for coming to our call and being so candid and honest with us. And hopefully this will really, really change the trajectory of like what some people are doing in their communities, how they're viewing safety. Because there's a lot more to just feeling safe and being safe, right? For us Black people, we define what our safety is. So I really appreciate you so much for that. And you all, we're gonna go ahead and get into our next piece of spoken word.
Peace. My name is Osiris Bali. I'm with the Little Rock Freedom Fund here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock Freedom Fund, we are demanding an immediately end to police violence, end to qualified immunity for law enforcement to release the police disciplinary records to public information, reallocate money from police to the community, establish a nationwide database for police misconduct, neutralize the FOP. We demand that we recertify police yearly, value people over property, and make sure the independent investigations of police misconduct are public information. So let me get into this piece, and I appreciate y'all giving Little Rock Freedom Fund some time on Black Safety 365. This piece is entitled, What a Blessing. God is the best to me, ought be the weaponry. Jah keeps on forgiving me, and Allah is always listening. We built pyramids to worship, now we got division in our churches. Sand dunes and tycoons, look to the east whenever you're searching. Reincarnated symbols at 35, I received my visions. Apostles proclaim the gospels. Earth scholars look for dollars through the mysteries. They try to credit their history with ancient answers, digging up fossils. My heart so big, feel like it's beating out my chest. That means I got a lot of it. You want to try me, Duke? I'm slicker than suede on Reebok and Nike boots. Enlightenment is true. Swoop from the trees. Bring forth your leaves, branches, and roots. Water your seeds, give them their daily bread. Reshape their heads. Repel the poisonous, rotten, bitter and fruit that oh so sweet forbidden juice I supersede the galaxy's roof. Oh ho hum, we can't let the perilous run. Don't close your eyelids, view. We speak chariots in motion, arching the sky like Iris and Jehu. See, Arabic ancient orders, they different from the Shriners and the borders. New Jerusalem benefit for the life of Jehovah. You can't blame your life when you chose it. Shout hallelujah in prison. Amen in traffic. Mazel tov in the mausoleum. Part of my breathing. But they say it all started in Eden. That's why I never death march into a bottomless coliseum. Is it the sinner in me or just the beginner in me? To lose the soul, lynched on the boots of my Timberland trees. Crooks raided our castles and bandana to speaks on the front of a T. No benediction. Ask me and I tell you that I've been addicted. This is worldwide rehab. To say it's not would be fiction. I guess I'm holding the crystal ball. They go bang on the corners and I go hug the mourners, all for the sake of the cause. So if I ball and I fall, I'm too magnificent to crawl. I'm off the wall like a white boy walking in a Black Panther party meeting and getting away without a scratch on his jaw, man, that ain't likely at all. See, I'm in love with my curls. They uncaught my mouth, I begin to bomb it up pearls. And I still rep the best of both worlds. I keep us on this back to Africa movement like we be the Black Pearl. We the children of the sunlight. Sharpen your intellect before you try to battle with knives in a gunfight like hostile Canaanites. But it said Jesus loves me. My mama trusts me. My pops be assisting me. My brother is growing vividly. My sister prays for me, and my friends keep on saving me. So I can't appreciate them all lazily. Each of them should know that I'm here because of them, thankfully. From the 5th hour to the 9th, paradise is assured. Man, woman, and child can now seek intervention. So I give you hidden verses of hip-hop that beat out the box. I pick locks on 5% of the waterfalls before they drip drop, and I traveled up north on a sea walking lamb, true unvarnished, anticipate the chain break of bondage. See, freedom, it ain't never been a tradition. You got to be Muhammad proficient. I'm dreaming how I could perfect this. Community first, connecting the blocks together like Tetris without a guest list. So petition for custody of your own condition. Jihad is real holistically healed. Shabak, I know the mirage could kill. The court system is disgusting. The government feels corrupted. And sometimes our politicians are sacrificial pride, admiration, lovers. But in God, we do trust him. Subject to fall short due to the pressure. My ancestors just fought for me. That's just a Kohen blessing. I hope that I can bless you. To anybody walking around in the streets thinking they got some type of beef, look at your sleeves. Are your arms in there? And do you still have teeth? So if you still got feet, using the tunnel under the world that Shiva restored, your life must be born. Once with blow, I will crush your windpipe like a tropical storm. I do this for my lifetime in each poem or each song. So any time you caught time on a charge and your life was involved, go ahead and get that back. You're free to clock in and out on your own. Consider that. I never forgot which way my roots grow, from African tribes to fraternity lives. I still smell like black soap, shea butter, and cocoa, strong and powerful like Shaka Zulu and Estevanico, Blagrove, salty from the transatlantic slave trade because the blood of slaves still runs through my veins. In our dreams, Our bush children run and play through the savannah plains. I can still taste the flavor of palm oil and plantains. I am the voice of the people, the voice of Patrice Lumumba, Fela Kuti movement with the people, the beauty of Fela Kuti with that Miriam Makeba cassette before HIV and Liberian Civil War death. I am Africa, but America only wants me to remember my days beginning from enslavement like I can't hear cries from the Mayflower bases. My mother and father faces, direct descendants of King David, Haile Selassie, as they speak in 1,000 tongues. I still got African grade on my arm, Swahili chants tattooed to my tongue. I can still feel raised from sub-Saharan sun. Whisper to them, let me know the kingdom that we come from, kings and queens, not N-words and bastards. When I chuckle, you can hear God in my laughter, because I am Africa, and that's just a blessing. Peace.
Wow. You just heard from Osiris Bali. Osiris Bali is an activist and artist who combines his passion for the arts and social justice to create his own platform, framed as Liberation Arts. In 2019, Bali worked across Arkansas to engage communities around youth advocacy, voter engagement, social justice, radical equity, education, and criminal justice reform. Alongside Don Jeffrey, with Seeds of Liberation and partnering with Arkansas Citizens First Congress and the ACLU of Arkansas, they were able to complete the Know Your Rights tour in Arkansas, helping to engage hundreds of Arkansans about the rights of citizens through interactive discussions with lawyers, artistic expression, and literature. Thank you, Osiris. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Elisheva, and shout out to the Black Freedom Collective. All of y'all, it's a wonderful conversation. I appreciate y'all for having me, and now I'm continue to be a guest and watch this powerful presentation.
All right, y'all. So y'all want some more panelists? All right. So up next, we have our second group of panelists, and these folks are hail from all across the country. Did I tell y'all I was from Detroit? Yeah, they mentioned us as one of the blackest cities in the country. So let's get started with our next group. We have Don, Aramis, Ro. Don, Aramis, and Ro, right? So Aramis
get fast speeds and built-in Wi-Fi. Connect your wireless devices at home.
Aramis is the founder and executive director of PJP, with almost a decade of experience of building organizations, grassroots organizing, and leading the large-scale campaigns. Aramis brings a deep understanding of global social movements and has a unique outlook on how to build power in Ohio. Roshawn Evans is a co-director of Pure Justice. In the fall of 2015, he started to currently serve as the organizing director, inmate liaison, and community outreach coordinator. Evans helps to spark the idea of creating an organization centered on advocating for criminal justice reform and exonerating falsely accused and convicted inmates outside of those placed on death row, after he himself had been falsely accused of a crime and found it exceptionally hard to locate organizations that were willing to review his case and help him get exonerated. In 2017, Evans published his first book, Stolen Identity, that explores how African-American males become victims of the school to prison pipeline, even when they have not even committed a crime. Last, but of course not least, my sister from another mister, Don Blagrove. Don Blagrove is an attorney and activist who worked for close to a decade on behalf of incarcerated people at NC Prison Legal Services. She now serves as executive director of Emancipate, North Carolina, a community organization that works to dismantle structural racism and mass incarceration all across the state. Emancipate MC's focus areas include bail reform, ending justice youth confinement, police reform, and restorative justice. All right, y'all. How y'all doing tonight?
Yo. Feeling
Yo, what's
hyped
it?
after Osiris's spoken word.
That part, yo.
Touched my soul, for real.
Man, it was so powerful, right? Like a lot of the work that you all do. So, Don, I'm gonna start with you, sis. How do you define safety?
How do I define safety? As a Black woman, I can only look at safety through the lens of Black people because as Black folks, our safety is interconnected. So until we are all safe, none of us are safe. So when I think about what Black safety means, it means Black people having the bandwidth, the autonomy, the choices to thrive and not survive. We are constantly being held in a place because of systemic oppression and institutional racism. We're constantly held in a space where we are reacting. Safety looks like living in a place, living in a space where we do not have to react, but instead we are able to plan, thrive, plot out, and design what safety looks like to us collectively. Safety involves making sure that we all have a living wage, a roof over our heads, do not have to live in militarized states, do not have to live under the thumb of white supremacy. That is what safety looks like to me. Now, how we get there is a different question. And over the years, I have spent a lot of time vacillating between whether or not safety requires reform or abolition. And I'm firmly in the seat now that safety involves abolition. We cannot get to safety without abolition. And if that means that we have to create our own communities, if that means we have to create our own safe spaces, if that means that we have to think radically different about what it requires to build a community, then that is what we do.
I love that radical thinking, right? I love the part about radically different thinking, right? We as Black people, we have to think outside of the box that we've been taught to think in, y'all.
That's right.
Thank you so much, John, for that. Aramis, my brother, tell me how you define safety.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that question, Elisheva. And I want to acknowledge again Dawn's definition and also the courageous leaders on this phone call. So it's important for us to begin to strategize and build what the question of safety is for us African people in the current borders of the United States. So to answer the question, in our organization, we have an emphasis on discussing safety in the lens of Black power. And Black power is the only way we can define it, where we understand that we are building a world, like Kamau said, on our own terms, to feed and clothe and house ourselves, because we are fighting against historical forces known as colonialism and enslavement. And these forces inform our demands and our struggle for the complete liberation of our people in our natural homeland in Africa and wherever we are located. This is what safety means to us, you see. It is not a question of asking the state to be more civil to us. It is not asking or waiting for the state to be more nice to us. We're basically just saying we're not talking about included power and that we're not talking about integrated power. We're talking about power plain and simple. And that is autonomy. That is being able to walk and breathe and live as African people. But we must struggle to achieve these goals, to achieve this question of safety in our communities. And that is the task we are faced with today in this discussion moving forward.
Thank you, my brother. So we asked residents how safe they felt when stopped by the police. Here's what they had to say.
Give me a few words that come to mind of emotion, feelings that you would feel while being pulled over by law enforcement.
Gosh, feelings, emotions. I feel panic. I'm like, oh gosh.
I feel apprehensive and nervous when I'm pulled over by the police, because at any given moment, a wrong move reaching for my license or insurance, or I answer the question in a tone that the officer might not appreciate, the situation can go completely downhill.
I feel nervous. I feel anxious. My heart races, palpitations, fear. Sadness. I don't feel protected.
My name is Johnny Sally. When pulled over by police, I automatically, no matter if I've done something wrong as far as a traffic violation or not, there's an automatic fear that I may be going to prison or jail, whether I've done something or not. There's an automatic fear that my life could be taken because officers automatically walk up to my vehicle as if something may potentially happen to them, even though we're trained in society to know that the police are in control.
Scared as fuck for my life. I don't like being pulled over at all. It's a scary situation. I feel a lot of nervousness, a lot of scared. No matter how legit I am, no matter if I don't got nothing in the car, ain't did nothing, I still feel scared. That's how I feel when the police pull me over.
All right, y'all. So we want to ask you to give us any reaction to those videos, and how do you feel when you're stopped by the police? All right, bro. This next question is for you.
Yeah.
So what do communities need in order to not only feel safe, but to achieve true safety?
Thank you for that question, E. So you'll hear me often say one of the best and easiest ways to have somebody do something that may be against the law, knowing it's a strong possibility they may get caught. You squeeze them for everything you can. You under-resource them, and then you over-police them. So in order for our communities to actually get the safety and feel safe like we should feel, one, we have to have resources and not punishment. Because when people do things that may be against the law, one, you have to understand that a lot of people come from generational poverty. So when you come from a place of generational poverty, it's easy or easier to be sucked into an oppressive, racist system, a system built out of white supremacy. And when you have no opportunities and resources, we are creative individuals by nature. So the creativity is the part that people, I believe, have the lack of understanding, because by any means necessary mean I am going to survive. That means that any means by necessary looks like prostitution. It looks like theft. It looks like robbery, B&Es. It could even go all the way to murder because people are forced to be in a vulnerable state. So in order for Black communities to actually be and feel safe, one, we have to have resources, not punishment. We have to stop funding and resourcing violent policing. We need to put public resources in housing. We need to continuously keep addressing food insecurities and building grocery stores and grocery deserts. We need Medicare and Medicaid counseling. We need to address mental health issues, transportation. What we need in Black communities is to remove law enforcement from traffic stops because traffic stops have been used as a tool to racially profile and legally traffic Black bodies in a system that keeps us in a circle of generational poverty while others into a cycle of generational wealth. We got to end violent policing. True public safety means everyone is safe and secure physically, financially, and emotionally. And until we address the vulnerabilities of the people, we could never have a true Black safety.
And if I could just jump in here, because I think what all of us, between Aramis, Rowe, and myself, the answers that we have all given can be capsulized in one word: reparations.
Of course.
America owes Black people in this country reparations. Reparations in the form of financial wholeness, reparations in the form of correcting the trauma that has been bestowed upon us because of systemic and institutional racism, addressing the harms that are in our DNA that go all the way back to chattel slavery and beyond. We can create safety when we get reparations. We can create fair housing systems when we have reparations, when we have money that is put into our schools. And if we want to call it reparation, that's fine. But to equal out the imbalance in education that our children face, to equal out the imbalance in access to higher education, to equal out the imbalances that exist, that exist, but are not accidental, right? That were designed to create oppressive environments for Black people, that were designed to put the foot of America on our neck so that white folks could thrive. Reparations are not just about money. Reparations is about taking that foot off of my neck. And not only are you going to need to take that foot off of Black America's neck, but then you need to give us the come up that we would have had if your foot wasn't on our neck, right?
And we know my sister Dawn is going to talk about that come up. And I appreciate you for bringing up reparations, sister. Like, you know, our 40 acres and a mule looks like a lot more in 2022, three, wherever we at, right? So I appreciate you. And Ro, my brother, I got stopped 17 times in 1 year, right? That is the way I got sucked into the system for greater harm. So I really appreciate you lifting that up, my brother.
Hey, you know, E, I'm sorry. Like, I just want to chime in one more 30 seconds behind.
Y'all and y'all chimes now. Go ahead, my brother.
So when I talk about the resources and the resources we need, and then when Don come behind me and talk about the reparations, I just want to emphasize that outside of the reparations and the resources, we have to understand that we are each other's resource. Like, we need each other. Like, we can't be afraid to share the secrets and the sources of how to move forward. We have
Which leads me
afraid to uplift one another.
Which leads me, my brother, into our next question for Aramis. And Aramis, can you give us your organization's definition of state?
Oh, yes. So in our organization, we have engaged in struggle for many years. And one of the many questions we must we were struggling with the answer was, what is the state? So the state, how we understand it in current history, is a peculiar institution, but is a repressive force no matter where it's located. It is a reflection of the overall political economic relationships between people in society, i.e. the capitalist state or the socialist state. This is also the case internationally in relationships to states. The government is the form and configuration of those relationships, i.e. the executive, legislature, judicial, and national states. And on the local level, it's the same thing, based on the power relationship between people and groups that are called classes, established by the state. They do this internationally as well. They call it the UN. The state is always a form of oppression. It is there to maintain law and order, to protect the bourgeoisie from the masses. The state is the police department. The state is the court system. The state is the jails and prisons. The state is the army and navy. All those instruments are of state power. And in other words, it's those who you do not elect. But the primary mistake that the state often does, that they administer their power, is the forces of the organized masses and the guiding principles to sustain and season organizations to lead, because we will win. And that is the formation of the state. You know, the state is how do I say this without, well, I'm with family, right? So I'm gonna say whatever I want. So the state essentially is a domestic soldiers that occupy African working class communities. They only serve at the front lines of the war against our communities. They're domestic soldiers and terrorists. We call them open air prisons. Wherever Africans are terrorized, the police, the state justifies police terrorism by claiming that Africans and other oppressed people are criminals and exhibit other forms of deviant behavior. However, the state produces a narrative in order to hide the dastardly ways and its true nature. The state in this country is utterly criminal no matter where it's located. It is the biggest provocateur of violence in human history when it pertains to us. We are the ones who are being shot down in the street. We are the ones in the places they call prisons. We are the ones who, as Ro always talks about, his relationship to the state. We do not get radicalized over an election. We do not come into struggle over the vote. We come into struggle based off our relationship to the state.
Yes,
Thus, we must understand this contradiction primarily as we continue to struggle for Black power, because freedom is coming tomorrow.
Thank you for that very intricately broken down definition. Really appreciate that. Aramis is gonna become our uncle. Y'all know that uncle that had that cigarette that used to be on the end and he be talking and he got that cigarette. That's who Aramis is gonna become to this Black family, y'all. So my next question is for you, Don. Your organization often brings litigation against the police and other state actions that harm our people. Why is this an effective strategy to help achieve the safety our people are demanding?
That is a great question, because the effectiveness of the strategy, contrary to popular belief, has little to do with expecting the law to liberate us, right? The organized law is not designed to liberate Black folks. As a matter of fact, it is designed and codified in a way that makes racism and prejudice sanitized and makes it feel clean and calls it fair, right? So litigation is not about winning lawsuits. It's not about changing the law. I mean, it could be, and that's good if it helps, but what we know for sure, like Aramis just said, is that as long as we are part of a state and we are beholden to a state that is designed to oppress us, designed to maintain the status quo for the upper echelons, it will never be our source or our road to freedom. So we use it very much in a way to educate the people, to push back against society, to agitate right? To agitate, to aggravate the system, but also to help our people understand that there is no safety for us in the state. We have got to litigate so that people can see and have it laid plain and bare that the legal system will not save us. Voting will not save us in and of itself. The only folks that can save us is us, right? But litigation is a tool that we can use to manipulate the media, to manipulate the narrative, and most importantly, to help educate our people through the systems that that the state creates. That's what we do with litigation. We use litigation to help radicalize our folks, to help shake the shackles off of their brains, and shake the shackles of oppression off of their minds, and give them the ability to think freely again. Because let's be clear, we know how to keep ourselves safe. It's simply a matter of thinking about where you feel safest. Where do you feel safest as a Black person? With your people, in your family, in your communities. This isn't something that is foreign to us. We didn't start relying on law enforcement until after integration. Before that, we never called the police. We always existed on our own. We always created our own communities with our own set of values and our own set of bylaws and rules. Divesting from the state, as Aramis has just so eloquently said to us, is not only inevitable, it is something we've already done. It is something we know how to do. The problem at this point, the nexus, right, is reminding people that they are still being oppressed, reminding people that they are still being enslaved, and then giving them the vision to know that they have a choice. And once they're ready to act upon that choice, then we get to Black safety.
Yeah, I think that's so beautifully said, my sister, because safety is in choices, right? If I have a choice, I can make the choice that's safe for me, right? And so I believe that that is a beautiful, beautiful thing that you have lifted up, and I appreciate that. Ro, please share your organization's strategies that you all use to help reimagine safety in your communities.
So, Pure Justice, we're actively diligently working to abolish, repeal, and dismantle white supremacy, as well as decriminalize poverty. We continuously have boots on the ground, talking to community, because when I personally go to like city council or commissioners court, and they continuously advocate for certain things and ask for certain resources, they ask for things in communities they don't even live in. And I can almost assure you that the things that they advocate for, they don't go talk to the people in the communities they advocate for certain things, saying like police accountability, right? Or money for policing. The narrative behind law enforcement, one, is to protect and serve, but yet, law enforcement don't protect everyone from all communities the same. Like, they police in some communities or hunt in some communities while protect other communities. So people continuously ask for more law enforcement for the creation of a safe community, but yet, they've been terrorizing us since the beginning of time. So we go actively in the communities that has been terrorized and haunted by police, to ask them, what do you need for safety? What would you like to see, or what resources would you need to be safe? And the most part, nobody ever says police. One, they are always talking about the resources they need. One community, when I was in asking about safety, they was telling me they needed socks and underwear and washing powder, like essentials, basic needs, like the things that all of us on this call have, in our homes. We could just turn around and grab it if we want. So we're actively in the community, making sure that we're talking to community to see, like, what do you need? We're continuously working and advocating for bail reform. There is no amount of money, period, at all, point blank, should ever decipher if someone is held or released from jail. When you hold somebody inside of the county jail because they do not have a dollar amount that they could actually give you in order to be released, you're punishing people because they are poor or they come from generational poverty. You punishing people because they don't have financial access. So now you have somebody like a Jamal that have a $400 bond for whatever, and he's stuck in jail because he don't have $400. And then you got, little Tommy over here who just went on an anger spree because his girlfriend just made him mad, so he killed her. And then they gave him $1 million bond and he posted. Like, there is no way, because this guy has $1 million and he could post that bill, make a safe community, right? In comparison to holding somebody in jail because they don't have $400. What we are doing, we're continuously in the community, making sure that people know, no matter what you experienced, no matter what you've been through, that criminal record you had 5 and 10 years ago, or what you got in trouble for 6 months ago, as long as you are not on probation, you still have an actual voice on how this country and city and county is ran. You can still exercise your civic duty. You can still register to vote and cast a ballot for the representatives that you want to represent you. And it goes back to Brother Kamau was saying as well, about how we have to pretty much control some of the entities that have the stronghold on us. We have to take control over some of these systems that control our destiny. We have to come together and we have to figure it out. So let's see, make sure I'm not going too deep in the weeds here. But what we do in order to feel safe, like what our organization do, here I'm looking back at the question, our strategies is pretty much making sure that we keep community involved in everything that we do. There is nothing we do without community. Everything that we work on comes straight from community. We pull community together once a month to see what's happening in your community. How can we work together to change that? And then we work, and we continuously keep pushing that ball down the line. We get the change that we want to see. And
thank you for that, my brother. My brother talked so long, he forgot the question. He had to go back and that's what I'm talking about. That's why he's so passionate, right? We are so passionate about our sisters and brothers' freedom and safety around this country that we will talk your heads off about it if you give us the chance. We are organizers hailing from all across this country. And I just want to give some time right now for the audience to become a little bit more involved in this. And we're going to ask some questions in the chat. Okay. So one of the questions are, and let's go ahead and Don, you take this one. Or is our other two brothers available to answer these questions as well?
What's the question?
So the question is, are there plans to organize a freedom ride for us to mobilize folks to go to Atlanta and resist Cop City en masse? If not, could we organize that? And I think this question itself speaks directly to the need for and the power of the Black Freedom Collective, right? Because there are Black-led organizations that are committed to Black liberation from all over the country that are doing work in all different types of arenas and subject matter areas, who are collectively thinking about how do we get to Black liberation. So I don't know that there is an en masse organization plan, but I know that there should be one. And as a Black Freedom Collective member, I know that this is something that we are going to be talking about in our safety pillar, and how we can organize this. So stay tuned, because we need to be doing this.
I'm in full agreement. Like, we have to figure out how we stop that cop city so that that is just not recreated in a lot of other cities, right? What would a cop city look like in Detroit? For any of y'all who are on this call from Detroit, we don't need any more police in Detroit, right? All right, what's our next question? All right, we have a question. Is it Weissel? Safety is broad. How do we narrow it down to engage and mobilize community members to rally around a specific aspect of safety? And how do we do that as a nonprofit agency considering the risks? We're going to go ahead and give that one to Aramis.
Yeah, so that is a very good question to ask. So depending on where you are located in the current borders of the United States, the first step is to engage the people and find out what they care about in the pillar of safety. It can look different no matter where you are. Like where we are right now is always people murdering people in our community. And then you can also find issue cuts that can lead to that as you organize the people. Because what you need to do oftentimes is provide a vehicle for people to express themselves in the political arena where they can win. Once you win, they will learn that they can. And then it's intoxicating, they will not stop. Thus, that is the first step of building the organization, building the will of the people to lead. And then from there, you just keep going and building and going and building. But it has to be input, what the mass of the people in your community want to organize around. It can be a stoplight. It can be like Brother Rowe was talking about. It can be traffic stops. Like it can be anything. But one thing we always have to remember: that people always want a sense of freedom and activity to act for themselves. And once you provide the vehicle, the ability to change their own conditions is paramount. It will literally take off itself. You just walk away and watch it build. Hope I answered the question. Organize.
You know, I want to comment on mobilizing the community, right? So it's not answering the question, just a quick comment. But I want to tell you, everyone that's watching, to get involved right now. Get involved before you are impacted. If you are not impacted, it doesn't matter. You know, like we all know, every system we interact with on a daily basis has a base out of white supremacy. And we don't have to be impacted in order to get involved to change something that we know need to be changed. So I'm telling you, if you have the time, if you can make the time, get involved into progressing a system that you could possibly be caught in tomorrow. Don't wait until you be impacted to start trying to advocate for something that only impacts you. Let's work together right now as a collective to change the system that we live in today.
And let us also always remember that there is no situation, there is no harm that is suffered by a Black person anywhere in America or the world that does not impact you. We live and die together. You touch one, you touch all. We need to always keep in the center of our minds that no Black man or woman or child should ever stand alone. We are always connected because our lives are interconnected. Our survival is interconnected. And that is something integration helped us forget, but we used to know that. It is part of your DNA. And if you trust that truth, it will always be your North Star.
All right, let's get into some more questions. We have some more time.
I'm not sure that there are any more questions.
All right, so it doesn't look like you all have any more questions. So I'll ask the question for the four of you, and we'll start with Ro, and we'll give it let's give it like 4 minutes each, y'all. But what would your ask look like in your community, right? What would your ask to your community look like to join in the fight for freedom and safety?
Well,
See how good y'all are at pitching.
I want to remind
organizers.
And I won't be long-winded, I promise. But I do want to remind everybody, because this is all I have. Like fighting to change something, to dismantle something, to progress something for my future. Like it don't have to deal with me. Like the things that I advocate for is not because I'm always the one that's impacted, yet I am impacted. So my ask, my say is it's way too much work, but not enough bodies. And if you can, and again, you know, like we need you. We can't do it without you. One of the best ways to dismantle a system that's been continuously oppressing us since before we was alive is to come together. Like I'm looking at this call, we in all these different cities. I am grateful to be a part of this collective with so many Black people in different spaces to dismantle a system that has generationally traumatized us. So I want my community to know you don't have to be impacted to get involved. We cannot do everything. It's way too much work and not enough bodies. And if you can, please get involved. Check us out. You know, our website is purejustice.org. You know, you can check us out on Facebook, see what you'll be getting involved in at Facebook at Pure Justice, Facebook _HTX at Instagram. And the same for Twitter, Pure Justice _HTX at Twitter. Every campaign that Pure Justice work around, it's around criminal justice reform, economic justice reform, and racial justice reform. So if you are like, if any of that intrigue you, like, please come get involved because way too much work, not enough bodies.
So Emancipate Tennessee right now, we are obviously housed in North Carolina. We are out of primarily out of Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area. Right now, we are focused on police accountability. There was a man, Daryl Tyree Williams, that was literally electrocuted to death for having an open container in his can in a parking lot. He was tased to death. He told the police he had a heart condition and they tased him anyways. We have a list of demands that were organized and created by the community that we are pushing right now. And I think this speaks directly to one of the questions that came up in the chat a little bit while Ro was talking, which was, is there a marriage between policy and abolition? Absolutely. Let me be clear. They like to make us think that we can only focus on one thing at a time. Please know that that is a tool of white supremacy. That is a tool of oppression. For us to think that we can only do one thing at one time is a way for them to stymie our liberation. Don't be fooled. We still live inside of these states, whether they are oppressive or not. We live inside of these states. And as a result, we have rights, right? We have power to demand accountability while simultaneously creating and building our own systems and our own state so that we can divest from the ones that are oppressing us. We can do both things at the same time, y'all. We can walk and chew gum. We have done it. We always have done it. We always will do it. But part of white supremacy, part of systemic and institutional racism is to convince you that we have to be singularly motivated. And we simply do not. Or if you want to be singularly motivated, let your motivation be liberation. And then we get to liberation however we get there. But don't be fooled. We can do both at the same time. We can lobby for change. We can change laws. We can file lawsuits. We can do all of those things while also divesting from those systems and building states that we control, that we run, that create equity and fairness for ourselves.
And I would like to add to that is what most of the organizations in the Black Freedom Collective are doing. They walking, they chewing gum, they eating, they drinking. I love it, sister. All right, Aramis, take us home.
I just want to emphasize what Dawn said. We are not purists here. We must be creative. We must use all the tools that we have. We know when Malcolm said that, by any means necessary, he means any means necessary, when the conditions deem it necessary. So if it means to organize nonviolently, we must organize nonviolently. When the conditions call for armed struggle, we will arm ourselves. The people will do it. And we must properly understand this. Also, although the police are losing stature in general terms, to emancipate ourselves from the arm of the state is not simply about defunding the state. We must remove the colonial forces out of our everyday lives. It is not, we must veer away from, like Dawn was suggesting, the liberal claim of cutting just the funding, getting body cams fixed and all these problems within the state that police us. And through this process, we must properly understand that organizing and political consciousness go hand in hand. It is a science and an art. It requires a skill and capacity to quickly choose and change forms of struggle when the material conditions deem it necessary. It is a process that requires a keen focus and examination of society's internal, external conditions and contradictions that at the end, building the infrastructure for organization is our only defense. It is our best defense from outside forces. So whether a police officer comes into our community and shoots one of us down or brings crack or drugs in our community or removes our people from our communities, we're so organized that they will not be able to face consequences without us being organized. And again, organization determines everything, period. That's our best defense. It's an eternal process. We must organize, period.
I love that. He put the period on it, y'all. Dot. All right. And I really appreciate you, Ms. Davis, for that comment. Yes, the GOP is suppressing Black votes all over our country. Michigan was one of them. We fought against it. Check out the Defend Black Voters campaign that I was a part of. You can look it up. Defend Black Voters. Emergent Justice and Moses, Detroit Action, Michigan United, and Mothering Justice were all a part of that fight. So I would like to thank you all tonight for coming and showing up. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Ro. Thank you so much, my brother Aramis. I would like to tell all the folks how you all can get involved. We want you to go to blackfreedomcollective.org for more information, right? https://blackfreedomcollective.org, y'all. I'll spell it out, right? Visit Community Change for more information about organizing and upcoming events. I just want to say, I'm going to do a plug for my son. His name is Charles Nathaniel Burton. He is housed right now in a Kalamazoo County jail for no reason. My son is wrongfully convicted, and I would like for you to write the prosecutor and tell the prosecutor in our city of Kalamazoo County, I'd like for you to tell him to respectably let my son out of that jail because he does not deserve to be there. I really appreciate everyone who showed up tonight and asked questions, and be looking out for the Black Freedom Collective to show up in a community near you very soon. Hailing from Detroit, be blessed.